My name is Alara Thompson, and I am 16 years old. I live in Pine Hollow, Oregon, a small town where life seems slow, but it was anything but for me. My world was filled with the chaos of my sister's rage and the dark shadows of our shared childhood. At 3 years my senior, my sister Kelly, was the storm that clouded my existence. She was smart and charming to anyone outside our home, but once the door was shut, she became a tyrant, unleashing wrath that originated from her feelings of abandonment. Our father left when we were young, and she believed it was my fault he had disappeared. I think she was just searching for someone to blame, and I became her target. We were often the only two in the house, with our overstressed mother working late hours at the diner. I would hear Kelly's voice resounding in the narrow hallways, a tempest of insults and hurt, while I desperately tried to navigate the storm. Her words cut deep. No matter how many times I tried to escape into a book or music, her vitriol was a constant presence. There was a special cruelty in her eyes, an almost gleeful enjoyment whenever she succeeded in making me cry. She was a master at it. After a while, I learned to give her back what she dished out. However, things escalated to a point I could never have prepared for. The day she took our family dog away from me, I saw the cruelest side of her. In that moment, she had taken everything good from my life just to see me in pain. Every day felt like surviving the aftermath of a natural disaster. As the months turned into years, I found myself angry and alone, always waiting for her next barrage of cruelty. Her emotional instability created a bond that was strangely toxic, where I was often left feeling as if I were the fault line beneath a shifting tectonic plate. Life in that house was not just tense, it was a waking nightmare. The little new joys I experienced were often overshadowed by the thought of her lurking just around the corner, waiting to unleash her next wave of hurt. There was a time when I felt enough was enough. I decided to take a stand, not with fists but with cunning. The pivotal moment came just before her country concert when her ire reached a new level. I had been brimming with resentment as she came home one evening after hanging out with friends, only to turn her anger on me for no reason at all. It was as if a switch had flipped in the cruel game of our lives, and I knew it was time to play my hand. I had a plan, a thought that filled me with both dread and excitement. The twists and turns of my anger made me wish I could turn the tables and render my own form of justice. I was never one to believe in revenge, more of a peacemaker in my own degenerate chaos, but emotions followed a different pattern when faced with unbearable circumstances. I thought about her upcoming concert and how excited she was for it, her chatter filling the air with an odd sort of joy that made me sick to my stomach. It was the perfect time to enact my plan. My sister was a particularly volatile person in those years, and I knew her temperament well enough to use it against her. She did not realize that clouds could be manipulated, and soon she would be caught in her own storm. It all began on a Monday when she was exceptionally merciless. As her rants echoed through the house, I retreated to my room. I had recently acquired a wasp trap from a neighbor who was tired of backyard stings. The contraption seemed harmless enough unless you knew how to use it. I hid it away, planning each move like it was a chess game. Each wasp waiting inside was a metaphor for all the stings Kelly had authored in my life. Through the week, every time she lashed out at me, I would pretend to retreat into my soft, comforting world of tears and emotional fragility. Little did she know that my fragility was an act. Oh, how expertly I played that role as she stormed downstairs to distract herself with mindless television. I was seething with excitement behind the locked doors of my room, the grin on my face growing wider with every moment like a conspirator plotting the downfall of a tyrant. By the time Friday rolled around, our shared bathroom had become my creative workshop, and her shampoos and conditioners were the canvas of my revenge. I poured just under a tablespoon of the wasp trap solution into each bottle, imagining her reaction as she lathered up. The solution was an amalgamation of sticky sweetness, a ghostly predator disguised with danger. Kelly was busy packing her bag, her mind far away from caring about her little sister. I waited for her to leave, like a lion waiting for its prey in the long grass of the savannah. That day, she had an extra edge to her anger, and in one last incredible burst of rage, she threatened me just before leaving the house. When she grabbed my arm painfully tight, a revelation coursed through my veins. I knew that this was now my moment of truth, a pivotal juncture of morality where chaos and order collided. I added something new to my trap: urine. Yes, the worst imaginable insult. I had stored some in a small plastic bottle, hidden beneath my bed, each drop filled with the same anger that had been building inside me for years. My intentions had become crystallized in that moment. As her concert drew near, I left the bottle in the sun to seal my plan. The smell would be unbearable when she opened those bottles for her shower. Kelly rushed out of the house, leaving me behind with a throbbing heart full of anxiety and anticipation. After she washed her hair with my concoction, enraptured in her own world, I could only envision her horror when the wasps would come for her that night at the concert, a beautiful symphony turning into a nightmare. Imbued with a sense of urgency and risk, I poured some of the urine-tainted shampoo and conditioner into the empty bottles, replacing them with diluted soap and water, striving to leave no trace of evidence. A small pang of guilt rose within me, but I stomped it down. I wondered if I would be able to look her in the eye and confess my actions when they executed their revenge, or if I would revel in the triumph of a plan so devious yet so thoroughly conceived. When Kelly returned home, I was prepared for the fallout, yet I lay low, feigning ignorance. As I listened to her anguished cries seep through the walls, my heart danced with a disturbing delight. "Why do I smell bad?" she shouted to my mother, and I could feel the gleeful satisfaction rush through me like a euphoric wave. She became the victim of the chaos she had always brought upon me. There she was, my sister, ranting and raving about wasps at the concert, and the smell that wedged her into humiliation. I thought about how she had tormented me for years, and even though her emotional outbursts continued to ripple through our home, she was knocked low enough to wallow in self-pity. For 2 weeks, it was glorious. Kelly could not lash out at me, as she was far too preoccupied with the fallout from my incredible plot. I remember feeling stronger, like the weight of her cruelty was finally being taken off my shoulders. I could almost see the dark clouds that had loomed over my existence finally parting. Each moment of silence between us felt like a triumph, a small victory in our twisted, chaotic sibling rivalry. But as time passed, I began to hear whispered town gossip about my sister. Friends had shared rumors about the girl who smelled so bad she had to cover it up with scents that could only be described as desperate. They taunted her about the wasp incident, and I could hardly contain my snickers. Yes, there sat Kelly, once the queen bee, now a mere target of ridicule. However, the fallout came in a darkness I never anticipated. My initial delight morphed into a feeling of emptiness. What had I become? I began to realize the shadows of my revenge clouded my judgment. While I had tasted the sweetness of retribution, it was bittersweet when I allowed myself to step back. The very essence of Sisters was falling apart, with my actions leading us down a path I could barely recognize anymore. The fallout of one twisted tale was reaching its climax and preparing to extend far beyond what I could have crafted in my imagination. As one evening settled in, Kelly cornered me. With her face red with both anger and hurt, she could no longer hide behind the facade that she was indomitable. We shared an intense conversation, and for the first time, we laid everything on the table. It wasn't merely rage I found behind her eyes, there was a deep ocean of sorrow. In that confrontation, I saw a glimpse of the human beneath her cruelty, a damaged soul trying to find its way amid misery and sadness. "Do you even care what I go through?" she shouted. The question hung in the air, leaving a mark on my heart. I never thought I would question everything I had positioned myself to feel so proud of. In my desire to silence her torment, had I destroyed what little left of our relationship that mattered? At that moment, I had to make a choice. Would I retaliate again to ensure my silence, or would I step into the light and find a resolution that did not involve revenge? I could either remain in the shadows with my plot, or I could face the storm and root for a chance at redemption. As I dug deep within myself, I felt a new strength arise. Perhaps it was time to move beyond the cycle of hurt. I realized that revenge came with its own burdens, and in confronting my sister that day, I bore the weight of our shared anger. By reflecting on my own emotional scars, perhaps I could begin to help her heal from hers. That evening, we spoke for hours. Surrounded by anger, hurt, and tears, I began to understand her better. I saw her in a way I never could through the haze of vengeance. We shared our stories, each pouring out our souls in a raw moment as the centerpiece of our shared hatred tore away. Life eventually became easier. It was not about revenge or who stood stronger. Instead, it became about understanding and healing in a way I never believed was possible. I found new joy living without the weight of anger, slowly learning to forgive. Perhaps it was impossible to erase the history we shared, and in that night's shared confessions, we evolved toward a future painted in more vibrant hues. Weeks turned into months, and the integrity of our sisterly bond was unbelievably stronger than ever before. The story of revenge had transformed us into more than the monsters we once were. Kelly and I laughed, shared moments, danced to songs, and became the sisters we were meant to be all along. Sometimes, the darkest paths could lead to the greatest revelations. We created new memories, leaving the shadowy past behind us. While life would always hold its challenges, we approached those obstacles together. Each reunion sparked laughter instead of rage, an unexpected twist in the narrative I had initially crafted. In Retribution and beyond, our story unfolded into something worthy, enriched by the love that guided two lost souls to redefine our past and cherish our present.